Justin Trudeau on his way out this Monday night. The Prime Minister's reasons for resigning.
And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election.
The reaction from his political opponents.
It doesn't matter who the next Liberal leader is.
We need a carbon tax election now.
And from Canadians.
I think the Liberal Party's cooked.
What does proroguing Parliament mean? And who will run to replace Trudeau as Canada braces for Trump's return to the White House?
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader.
Alone on the steps of his official residence in Ottawa, Justin Trudeau followed in the footsteps of his father, Pierre, who resigned almost 41 years ago. Faced with plummeting popularity, a mutiny by many of his own MPs, abandoned even by his once loyal finance minister and deputy prime minister, the 53-year-old is quitting after nearly a decade in power. Good evening and thanks for joining us. It is not a complete surprise. He's been under pressure for months, and even Trudeau admitted the internal battles within the Liberal Party made it clear he had to go. But he will stay on until the party chooses a new leader, which plunges the country into a period of political uncertainty at a precarious time, just as President-elect Donald Trump takes office in the U.S. We have extensive coverage tonight on Trudeau's decision, the reaction, and the pressure to pick a new Liberal leader. We begin with David Akin in Ottawa. David.
Well, Donna, Justin Trudeau returned from that holiday reflection clear-eyed about the path that he must take.
I am a fighter, and I am not someone who backs away from a fight.
But over the holiday break, Justin Trudeau concluded he could not fight the forces in his own party demanding he resign and beat Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives.
It has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
First elected to Parliament in 2008, his party's leader since 2013, Trudeau finally realized he had become his party's own worst problem.
Removing me from the equation as the leader who will fight the next election for the Liberal Party should also decrease the level of polarization that we're seeing right now in the House and in Canadian politics.
To give his party some breathing room to select a new leader, Trudeau asked the Governor-General to prorogue or suspend the business of Parliament until March 24th, and that request was granted.
We are right now the longest-serving minority government in history, and it's time for a reset.
But after that reset, the government, and whoever is Prime Minister then, will face unavoidable confidence votes. And the Conservatives will not give the Liberals a break.
Everything's out of control. And now the government is out of control. This cannot go on. We need a carbon tax election now.
Neither will the Bloc Québécois.
Now is time for an election.
The Liberals once could count on their most reliable parliamentary partner, the NDP. But their leader, too, says time's up.
As soon as there is a confidence vote, New Democrats will be voting against the government. And then we will have an election.
David, the Liberal Party is now under pressure to pick a new leader by the end of March because that's when Parliament comes back. And we expect there will be an election almost immediately. Have I got that right?
100%, Donna. The government is going to have to present a throne speech when the House resumes on March 24th, and that will be followed by a confidence vote on the throne speech after a few days of debate. So that could have the government falling then in the first week of April, or the next Prime Minister, assuming we have one by then, could short-circuit all of that and go straight into an election. But first, the Liberals have to select their new leader in a race that, to have the new leader in place in time, is going to have to be run in half the normal time it takes for these things. So some expect Trudeau's successor to be in place as soon as March the 15th. Donna.
David Akin in Ottawa, thanks. No one has officially announced they want to succeed Trudeau, but a number of people are expected to run for the top job, and they will have to ramp up their campaigns fast. Mackenzie Gray is following that part of the story. Mackenzie.
Whoever takes Justin Trudeau's job will face a massive political challenge to catch up to the Conservatives, Donna, but expect there to be no shortage of candidates willing to step up to that fight.
A full national process that brings in people from right across the country.
That's what Justin Trudeau wants a leadership race to look like, something the Liberal Party president tells Global News will be discussed at a meeting later this week. But time is of the essence, with the Liberals having only 77 days before Parliament returns.
Let's reboot the Liberal Party. Let's finally move us back to the center where we should be.
There are over half a dozen candidates who could lead that reboot. Former Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland is near the top of the list. She thanked Trudeau in a curt tweet today after her resignation sparked a renewed push to oust the PM. But after 9 years as his chief lieutenant, her proximity to Trudeau could hurt her electorally. A political difference former Bank of Canada and England Governor Mark Carney is hoping to capitalize on. Sources tell Global News Carney's been calling Liberals, telling them he could be a change candidate since he hasn't been in cabinet. But some Liberals are skeptical of that.
I would still have to be convinced that he has the political instincts.
I, Dominic LeBlanc.
Newly minted Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc, a close personal friend of Trudeau, is also likely to run, along with Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson, who a source tells Global News is calling caucus colleagues. They could also be joined by Ministers Anita Anand, Melanie Joly, Francois-Philippe Champagne, and former BC Premier Christy Clark, who, like the rest of the potential candidates, are waiting on clarity from the Liberal Party on the rules and timelines for the race. The future Liberal leader could get a political boost, with polling from Abacus data showing, Donna, that 16% of Canadian voters would be willing to reconsider the Liberals now that Trudeau's gone.
Okay, Mackenzie in Ottawa, thank you. The U.S. president-elect, who takes office on January 20th, responded to Trudeau's resignation today. This is what Donald Trump said on social media. Many people in Canada love being the 51st state. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. With me is our Ottawa Bureau Chief Mercedes Stephenson. Mercedes, we know Trump is a guy who senses weakness and goes for the jugular and says things that aren't true. But how precarious a time is this for Canada? And what happens if he imposes tariffs while Parliament is still prorogued?
It's a really precarious time for Canada because he knows that the days of this government are limited and that the Prime Minister is basically not a caretaker at this point, but he doesn't have a future. So how much is he going to negotiate with him? On top of that, you get this sense of sort of political instability that somebody like Donald Trump will absolutely exploit in terms of trying to embarrass the country or trying to get his way with trade, tariffs, and defense. Now, in this particular case, we obviously know Justin Trudeau did not resign because of what was happening with Donald Trump. It had to do with internal party politics. But there are still effects of this, right? And you mentioned the tariffs, Donna. In the case of tariffs, Parliament sitting or not doesn't change whether or not tariffs are laid, and it also doesn't change the ability of the government to respond. But what it does affect is money that would be for things like the border plan. But I've spoken to sources in national security and the Prime Minister's office, and they say that that border plan is still going to go ahead, even though the bill is now dead in the water. They will be looking for other ways to do that because they believe that Trump is very serious about that tariff threat.
And Mercedes, who is in charge of dealing with Donald Trump now? Who is going to be handling the U.S.-Canada relations file over the next few months?
That will be Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself. I'm told that's going to be his primary focus at this time. He, of course, is very familiar with that file, Donna. On top of that, some of the folks who have been handling it in the past, like Chrystia Freeland or maybe Dominic LeBlanc, might be eyeing a leadership run of their own. Of course, the challenge there is what we were kind of talking about earlier, that he's seen as a lame duck prime minister in the U.S., and he is one here as well. That's something that premiers were weighing in on earlier today. Take a listen to this.
We're in a position now where we've got a lame duck leader with no immediate plans to leave, with no resolution to who is going to be the bargaining partner until, I think it was suggested, as late as May.
We need all hands on deck. We need the Prime Minister to continue doing his job. Prorogation doesn't mean vacation.
I think one of the things you're going to see here, Donna, is the provinces carrying out their own diplomacy in the absence of a clear future for a federal government. We, of course, don't know who the next government will be, but we do know there's likely to be an election in the spring, which might mean those premiers are more intent on communicating directly with Donald Trump himself.
Okay, Mercedes Stevenson in Ottawa, thank you. Prime Minister today acknowledged the internal battles he's been fighting within the Liberal caucus, but did not mention how deeply unpopular he has become among Canadian voters. Heather Yurix-West engaging reaction from Canadians tonight.
From clamoring for selfies to flying those now familiar flags, this Prime Minister has often elicited strong feelings among Canadians. In resignation, as in office, opinions full of passions Monday.
Joy, and just can't wait till it's all over, to be honest.
I'm so happy. For the last 9 years, I cannot recall he did anything good for the country.
Get rid of Trudeau, get rid of the Liberals, and we'll be good.
A celebration across the prairies was almost always a given. At the best of times, Liberal support here can be hard to find.
I'm a Western Canadian. I've always hated Justin Trudeau. I've hated the name.
But even in Trudeau's own Montreal riding, voters appear to agree.
It doesn't do nothing for the Canada. It's better if he run away. No good.
Liberals swept every Atlantic riding back in 2015. In 2025,
I'm looking forward to a new head of the Liberal Party so I can actually vote for them instead of swapping to the NDP or something.
I think the Liberal Party's cooked. Yeah, I think they're going to break up, to be honest. NDP.
And in BC and Winnipeg.
How do you think Justin Trudeau will be remembered?
Yeah, unfortunately not very well, I don't think. It's too bad.
Certainly a lot of people are struggling with their finances. A great deal of Canadians are without a job, immigration out of control.
A decade after Trudeau Mania 2.0,
10 years is long enough.
Canadians appear ready to turn the page. Heather Yurix-West, Global News, Calgary.
We will have a look at Trudeau's legacy and some of his regrets a little later. But first, parts of this country are still being hit by a wintry blast, including Newfoundland and Labrador. In St. John's, the storm sent some structures tumbling into the ocean. Thousands were left without power across the island, though it has mostly been restored now. Environment Canada is now warning of winter storm conditions over Cape Breton Island. Donald Trump's election win now official. Coming up, U.S. lawmakers certify his victory 4 years after his supporters violently tried to stop the same process.
We got blizzard conditions right now.
More than 60 million Americans are in the grip of a powerful winter storm tonight. The deep freeze is bringing snow, ice and sleet. It's led to hundreds of crashes. At least 4 people have been killed on the roads. Nearly 2,000 flights were canceled today because of bad weather. More than 14 centimeters of snow has blanketed Washington, D.C., and more is in the forecast there. The weather didn't interfere with Congress certifying Donald Trump's victory in the 2024 presidential election. As Jackson Prosco explains, unlike 4 years ago, this transition of power was peaceful.
Heavy snow and heavy security did not stop the peaceful transfer of power.
The House come to order.
Vice President Kamala Harris formalized her own defeat.
The Senate and House of Representatives
presiding over the certification of Donald Trump's election victory.
Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes.
There was not a single objection and no attempt to overturn the will of voters, just procedure as it was meant to unfold.
I do believe very strongly that America's democracy is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it.
4 years ago, a different fight nearly shattered American democracy as Trump's supporters stormed this very building.
Everything about this makes me worry about the future of this democracy.
Officer Daniel Hodges was one of the 140 police officers injured defending the Capitol that day. At the dawn of this second Trump era, he came back to face the lawmakers who tried to help Trump overturn the vote.
I want them to look me in the eye if they happen to see me and make it just try and remind them of what actually happened, the truth.
There's an ongoing effort to rewrite history before Trump returns to office. The president-elect has promised to pardon the rioters who've been convicted, calling them patriots. The criminal election interference case against him has been dropped.
Really, Donald Trump had one opportunity to kind of make this go away by winning re-election, and he did.
None of this is news to the very voters who gave Trump a second chance. This day certified what happened on the last January 6th was not disqualifying in the minds of many Americans who've brought Trump back empowered and emboldened. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
President Biden still has 2 weeks left in office, and today he went to New Orleans as consoler-in-chief. He'll be meeting families of the victims of the deadly attack on Bourbon Street early on New Year's Day. 14 people were killed and over 30 others injured there when an Army veteran drove his truck into the crowd. Ahead, Russian troops claim to make a major move in eastern Ukraine. A day after Ukraine launched a surprise offensive in Russia's Kursk region, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says nearly 15,000 Russians have been killed in 5 months of fighting there. Russia released video claiming to show it is repelling Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region. The footage appears to show tanks and a mine-clearing vehicle being hit with drones. And Russia says it has taken another town in the eastern Donetsk region, a Ukrainian logistics hub. Soldiers who'd been advancing for months can be seen holding up a Russian flag. Gunmen opened fire on a bus in the occupied West Bank, killing 3 Israelis and wounding 7 others. It happened in a Palestinian village on a main road used by both Israelis and Palestinians. Hundreds of Palestinians and dozens of Israelis have been killed in a surge in violence in the West Bank since the deadly attack by Hamas on southern Israel on October 7th of 2023. Trudeau's tenure next, a look at what he accomplished and what he regrets. Had Justin Trudeau fought and won a 4th consecutive election, he would have been the first to do so since Wilfrid Laurier more than 100 years ago. But his political trajectory is not unlike most modern-day leaders. Trudeau has been in office just over 9 years, a few months longer than Brian Mulroney, a few months short of Stephen Harper. Canada's longest-serving prime ministers, Mackenzie King and John A. Macdonald among them, governed in a different political era. Today, it seems political leaders wear out their welcome more quickly. Justin Trudeau will leave office as Canada's 7th longest-serving prime minister. Eric Sorensen looks at his political legacy.
Justin Trudeau.
A decade ago, Justin Trudeau was seen as the savior of a Liberal Party that had lost 3 straight elections.
I didn't make history tonight. You did.
Riding sunny ways, Trudeau's majority government represented progressive change, establishing a cabinet with gender equality, embracing reconciliation with Canada's Indigenous communities. He welcomed Syrian refugees and signed on to the Paris Climate Agreement.
Canadians are looking to step up and do their part on the fight against climate change.
He was popular at home and abroad. But controversies came soon enough. Trudeau was sanctioned for ethics violations twice. Once when he accepted vacation gifts from the Aga Khan, and again when his Attorney General, Jody Wilson-Raybould, was pressured inappropriately to intervene in a criminal case against SNC-Lavalin.
I fully accept this report and take responsibility for everything that happened.
He was also embarrassed for donning blackface before his time in politics and for elbowing an MP while he was Prime Minister. On the world stage, sharp differences emerged with India. Ultimately, Ottawa accused the Modi government of involvement in the killing of a Sikh activist in Canada. Trudeau had a public falling out with China's leader Xi Jinping, who scolded the Canadian Prime Minister for allegedly leaking their conversations. More seriously, Canada's arrest of a Chinese tech executive, the counter-arrests of 2 Canadians, and then alleged interference in Canadian elections plunged Canada-China relations into a deep freeze. And then there was the new and unpredictable U.S. president. Things seemed to go well until Donald Trump believed Trudeau had disparaged him after a G7 meeting.
He learned that's going to cost a lot of money for the people of Canada.
Still, Trudeau found success with Trump, signing a new Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. Over time, the Liberals invested in childcare, dental care, and pharmacare with help from the NDP. He was credited for a whole-of-government response to COVID-19.
That's why our government is also allocating $2 billion to purchase protective personal equipment.
But all that spending created massive government debt, an inflation crisis, and with aggressive immigration, a housing crisis, sending Trudeau spiraling down in popularity. Some never liked him. Others became disillusioned, as when he failed to deliver promised electoral reform. One of his regrets, he says, on leaving office.
I do wish that we'd been able to change the way we elect our governments in this country.
As Trudeau's popularity collapsed, even Liberals, including his own Deputy Prime Minister, abandoned him. Modern political leadership, it seems, runs its course.
You serve in government for 8, 9, 10 years, and people start to get tired of you.
Justin Trudeau will have served more than 9 years as Canadian Prime Minister, and like so many before him, if he could have, he would have stayed longer. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
That is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. We say goodbye tonight with a shot of Parliament Hill in Ottawa this morning as Prime Minister Trudeau announced he's resigning. Parliament has now been prorogued or paused until March 24th, and Canadians wait to see how the next political chapter will unfold. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.